To the presentation on clinical engineering. We are joined by Mr. Okai, who is the lecturer with the Department of Electrical Engineering. He's very well accomplished. He is also a group leader in the clinical engineering cluster group. He's also a coordinator for medical equipment maintenance short course. And yeah, he has a lot of qualifications. MTech, Mr. Kayu, let me just hand over to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mohase, and good morning, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Tim Anton Okai. I am the cluster group leader for clinical engineering, and I'm responsible for the entire clinical engineering program at TUT. So, um, I don't know if you can see my screen, but I want to talk about the clinical engineering program at TUT. So I have a slide I'm going to be sharing. Let me try share screen once again. Here we go. So can you indicate if you can see my screen? Just give a thumbs up. Okay. So I'll be talking about clinical engineering education at TUT. I will content, but I will start with just a definition of what clinical engineering is. Now, I know that there are lots of not necessarily engineers. Some of you had the ambition of becoming.
Mr. Okai, we keep losing the audio. I'm not sure if I'm the
Okay,
only
I
one.
think what I'm going to do, let me change my audio device. Just give me a moment. Hopefully you can hear me better now.
Yeah, it's much clearer. Thanks.
Okay. So let's see by show of hands. How many of you before you came to TUT when you were young, you wanted to become doctors, but somehow life happens and then you found yourself in TUT? Can I see by show of hands? Okay, great. I see Masuku. I see, I see quite a few of you wanted to become doctors, but somehow it didn't happen, and now you're struggling with maths and electronics and all of those digital stuff, and here you are now with communication skills. Okay, thanks. You can put down your hands now. But I want to say there is still hope for you because clinical engineering is actually a field that still gives you an opportunity to rub shoulders and rub minds with those in the medical field. I'm sharing my screen. I don't know if it's showing. Okay, hopefully it is. Okay. So it's a profession that supports and advances patient care by applying engineering and managerial skills to healthcare technology. So with clinical engineering is actually a bridge between medicine and engineering. So with clinical engineering, you still work within the healthcare field, in a hospital, in a clinic, but now you are an engineer, or better yet, you are a medical engineer. So you have knowledge and skill in medicine, you also have knowledge and skill in engineering. And that's why in clinical engineering, you see, I'm holding the heart because we teach anatomy and physiology. You learn about the human body. You learn about the skeletal system. I'm holding here the bone. And this is like special senses where you learn about, okay, this is now the anatomy of the ear. So we teach you all of those stuff. We teach you about the brain. We teach you about the lungs. Here I'm holding the lungs. I don't know if you can see it. So we teach you all of those stuff. So you learn about anatomy and physiology where you have a good understanding of the human body, just like the doctors and nurses do. But then we also teach you the engineering side, okay? So that you have knowledge both in engineering and in medicine. And you use that knowledge to solve problems in medicine by designing medical devices that are used to treat patients in hospitals. So, clinical engineering practitioners are responsible for developing, managing, and maintaining the complex medical equipment used in hospitals, clinics, and in other healthcare settings. They work with doctors, they work with nurses, they work with other medical staff to ensure that all the equipment and devices used in the hospital environment are functioning properly, they are safe for use, and they are being used correctly in a way that they promote healthcare without harming the patients. So, clinical engineers, who are sometimes called biomedical engineers. So, these two fields are actually similar: clinical engineering, biomedical engineering. They develop new devices, medical devices, and technologies to help improve healthcare. And they are also responsible for training members of the healthcare staff on how to properly and safely use all of those medical devices. So, with clinical engineering, you are required to have a background in engineering, in medicine, in anatomy, in physiology, in ICT, and many other skills, including communication skills, which you're doing right now with Ms. Mohasi. So, some of the skills required, you need technical skills, which includes an understanding of electrical schematics. You need to be able to read circuit diagrams, circuit design, linear systems analysis, etc. And as clinical engineers, you often work with medical equipment and devices. And so you need to have a knowledge of how these products work. So we teach you the principles of operation of these medical devices so you understand how they work. And then you also need good troubleshooting skills because for you to be good at fixing, repairing, and maintaining medical devices, you need to have good troubleshooting skills. And then, of course, communication skills is important because in the hospital environment, you work with nurses, you work with doctors, you work with other members of the healthcare field. So you need to be able to um, communicate, not just in words, but in writing. You know, preparing different types of documents that are um, that back up what you actually do as a technician because you need to write reports, you need to document some of the repairs and service that you do. So, but all of those we teach you while you're doing your training here with us in TUT. Now, where can one study clinical engineering in South Africa? Well, actually, at the moment, TUT is the only university in South Africa where clinical engineering is offered. You won't find it anywhere else. They used to do it in UNISA, but they couldn't cope, so they closed down. So there's no more clinical engineering anywhere else except in the Department of Electrical Engineering within TUT. Okay, so the way it works, so you know, we have the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment here in TUT, and that faculty has got different departments, which you must have heard about. Among those departments is the Electrical Engineering Department. Now, in the electrical engineering department, we have different cluster groups. So there are different specialties or areas of specialization. You have electronics, you have power engineering, which is high current, there's process instrumentation, there's telecommunications, digital technology, but there's also clinical engineering, which is the one we're talking about now. So if you are looking for clinical engineering in the syllabus, you may not find it as a department of its own. You only find it under the Department of Clinical Engineering as one of the specialty areas. And here in TUT, you can study clinical engineering from your diploma to BTech level, and you can even have a postgraduate qualifications in master's and up to PhD. I got my master's in clinical engineering here in TUT many years ago, and I'm busy with the PhD. So you can study up to PhD level. But we also have like a bridging course, which is like a short learning program for 5 weeks, which we call the medical equipment maintenance course. And this course is actually for people who don't have a background in the clinical engineering field, but maybe they studied power, they studied process instrumentation, they studied telecoms, but now they are interested to branch into the field of clinical engineering. And so we usually encourage them to do that course, which is like a bridging course, an online course for 5 weeks. And these are some of the contents of that course to give them a general background in the clinical engineering field. It doesn't make you an expert, but at least it's an entry point for those who are looking for work in the clinical engineering field. So, with your background or qualification in other fields of electrical engineering, if you do the bridging course, you stand a better chance to get a job or be accepted in this field of clinical engineering. Okay. In terms of the work integrated learning, especially when you complete your studies here, you go to do your practicals in the field. It used to be 1 year, but now it's a 6 month short learning program. You see this picture on the right hand side, those are our students actually in the theater at Steve Biko Academic Hospital. You cannot differentiate them from the nurses and doctors. Okay, so they are currently, right now as we speak, they are doing their 6 months practical at the Steve Biko Academic Hospital, and they're working with equipment within the theater. Okay, so oftentimes, like I said, you are like a member of the healthcare team. So that's why those of you who miss the bus that takes you to do medicine, you can still catch the bus when you do clinical engineering and still work within the healthcare field. So so our students can do their work integrated learning in hospitals, in clinics, in medical equipment companies. These are all our students. These ones are working now. They are not students anymore. And you can see the sophisticated medical devices they are dealing with in big, large hospitals around the country. So you can work in companies like Philips, Siemens, etc., etc. You can work in public hospitals and clinics or private hospitals and clinics. We'll talk a little bit more about where our students and graduates can find work. But for your work integrated learning, you can actually do it in companies, you can do it in hospitals, you can do it in clinics, etc., etc. So what do clinical engineering personnel do? They install medical devices that are new. They look after them. They do maintenance. They do preventive and corrective maintenance. They do upgrade. They do calibration. They do design modifications. They train healthcare workers on the use of these departments. They work as field service engineers. They get call outs to go out to hospitals and clinics to fix devices, or they can be stationed within the hospital itself as in-house technicians. They do inventory and quality management, safety and hazard management. They can work in advisory committees. They can work in research and development. They can even work in academic institutions like TUT. We have some of them doing part-time lecturing for us, and so on. So they also are responsible for the entire medical device lifecycle management. Some of them hold managerial duties. So last week we brought one of our former students who graduated a few years ago. It's a lady. I will show you her picture just now. She is now the clinical engineering manager at Sunning Hill Hospital in Santon, a smallish lady. You will see her. I was with her yesterday in that hospital. I went to do a site inspection visit in that hospital, and she's the manager, and she's managing other clinical engineers who were our former students here. Okay. So generally, these are some of the categories of duties performed by clinical engineers. Now, this is the lady I'm talking about. She's now a clinical engineering manager at Sunning Hill Hospital in Santon. I was with her yesterday. You can see others on the right-hand side. She took me around the hospital to the theater, to the intensive care unit, to the cath lab where they do heart transplant surgeries. And we went around to the different units. So now she's demonstrating how an operating theater lamp works within the theater environment. And then we
And
have
go. You said
another
the
one
defibrillator
here
250,
demonstrating a
then
defibrillator.
750. So now we're checking
And
it. As it
the
reaches
defibrillator
750, we give you her a
is the
charge,
device
then
that
you'll
is
get
used
the
to
entire
shock a
stability.
patient back to
So
life, a
remember,
patient who is having a
10%
heart
tolerance, so
attack.
meaning that our capacity
So
is
you can use
5.
this device to shock them back to life. So they're demonstrating how the device is tested within the hospital. So you can see this is a real hospital environment where they're doing these tests. So these are all clinical engineers working within
Breathing,
the
and ECG
hospital environment.
monitoring.
So this is a
So you
defibrillator
select the
analyzer
function you want to use.
that is used to
So today
test
we'll
a
be doing the
defibrillator
DFID
and
1
also a
to test
pacemaker.
if our
These are
DFID can
devices that are
deliver
used to
the
shock a
desired
patient
result.
back to life who is undergoing a heart attack. Okay, and you can see they are dressed just like the nurses and doctors. There's no difference because they work in the same environment.
Every hospital have a guideline to follow, which goes with EM specifications. So now we'll be testing if this
Okay,
difference
so let's go to the next slide, which says, where do they work? So as members of the healthcare team, they work in private hospitals and clinics, Netcare, Life Healthcare, Mediclinic, Dr. George Mugari Hospital, as a public hospital and clinic, Steve Biko Academic Hospital, you name it. So they work with equipment suppliers. That's those companies that supply and market medical devices like GE Medical, Respiratory Care Africa, Philips Medical, Draeger, etc. They work with independent service organizations. They can work in academia, research institutes, and they also work within national and provincial departments of health. So just a summary, you can see where they work in quite a vast array of places. So think of how many hospitals and clinics we have in this country. Think of how many companies. Think of how many departments of health. And that tells you the kind of job openings that are available provincially and nationally where clinical engineering professionals can work. And that is why we don't have any clinical engineer hanging around looking for work. No. In fact, before they even finish their work integrated learning, they already found a job. The companies come looking for them because of the huge demand for their services and expertise in hospitals, clinics, and companies. And we don't have too many students usually. So the demand is quite high for our students, and they have a vast number of places where they can also do their work integrated learning. I will talk about some of the collaborations we have in some institutions and companies shortly. Now, one thing we do within the clinical engineering cluster group, which no other cluster group within the department does, we take our students out on tours and excursions. So their learning not only happens here in the university, we take them out to the field, where they learn hands-on as well. So here we do visits to Vets University Medical School, where we visit the anatomy museum. So when we talk about anatomy, we don't just teach them with textbook. We take them to a real-life anatomy lab in Johannesburg Hospital, where the Vets Medical School is. They go into the lab, they see real samples, the real human tissues that are used to teach and train medical students. So we take them there, and we also take them to the Adler Museum of Medical Equipment, also within the same environment. So these are our students 2 years ago, the batch, that we went to Vets University Medical School. We used to do this every semester before COVID. But after COVID, we have not gone back to Vets University Medical School, but we go to other places. Now we also visit the Steve Biko Academic Hospital There we have a dedicated clinical engineering training center where our students are trained for 6 months. So we take them there to visit the center as well. And we have an event, a global event that happens in Midrand once every year, usually in the month of around the second semester. So that's it used to be called Africa Health, but now it's called World Health Expo. So it's like some of you who have been to the Rand Easter show, but this is like an exhibition just for medical equipment and medical devices with companies coming from all over the world, from China, from Germany, from US, from all over South Africa to display new technology in medical devices. So we take our students to that event once in a year. It happens in the Galaga Estate in the, in Midrand. So we take a bus and we take our students there and they meet all of these companies, and many of the people they find in those places were our former students who are manning the stands and working with some of these global companies. Okay, so we are the only ones who do that within the department. No other cluster does that. We also have a collaboration and an MOU with one of the leading medical equipment manufacturers globally. They are number one in China and about the best 10 in the world. It's called Mindray, okay? And their local partner, RCA, Respiratory Care Africa. So they manufacture and market medical devices. So we have an MOU collaboration with them. Every semester they come here to train our students, but we also take a bus. We go to their training facility where our students get exposure, they get training, hands-on experience in that facility as well. So these are some of the excursions that we do. And I have some pictures here of trips we have done to Africa Health in the past, um, to Steve Biko Academic Hospital, and to other places where we take our students. Like I said, we are the only ones that do this in clinical engineering. There's no other cluster within the department that does this. Okay, this is just one of the visits to the clinical engineering workshop at Steve Biko Academic Hospital. So our students learn not only in the classroom here in TUT, but they are exposed to real life equipment and devices in the field where they meet with real professionals as well.
You do your P1 here, you will find out whether it makes you laugh or not.
So here he's demonstrating an anesthetic
Either
machine,
this,
the machine that is used to put you to
and if we
sleep
give you this stuff,
before a major operation.
and when we finish with your operation, we turn off the
So
anesthetic
they
agent,
expose you
and
to
you're
this
done.
gas, which is called the laughing gas,
And if you think
which puts
you
you to
can
sleep,
be tougher than that
and then
and
after
not sleep,
operation, they
you'll
wake you
be
up
making a
again.
mistake.
That machine is about 2 million rand.
Alright, that's about 2 million. Stuff comes in big numbers.
Okay,
Alright, let's just go to
so let's go to now. This slide over here is a short video on one of the visits we did to Mindray in 2023. We do this every semester. So in 2023, this is just the visit we did. Did a tour around the facility. We had lectures, presentations, lunch, and prize giving and all of that. So I will just play the short video which you can watch and enjoy. So Mindray has a medical equipment showroom in Johannesburg where they display a range and array of the kind of devices and medical equipment that they market. So they take our students there, and where they give them hands-on experience on defibrillators, patient monitors. I don't know if you can see, I have a defibrillator here with me in my office, a device that is used to shock patients back to life, those who are having a heart attack. So they show you how to do the maintenance and service of devices like this, the newest technology in town, patient monitors, and so on. So we take you through actually from the most basic of equipments like the blood pressure monitoring device, and we have a whole range array of. That's another small Philips monitor, which is used to monitor your vital signs, your blood pressure, your oxygen saturation, temperature, ECG, and so on. This one here is a syringe monitor, which is used to give, you can see there's a syringe here, it's a syringe pump, used to give controlled small doses of medication or painkillers to patients who are in the intensive care unit or those who are in palliative care, who are reaching the end of their lives. Okay? Yeah, so let me carry on. Okay, now when you graduate, you have the opportunity to register with the Engineering Council of South Africa. While a student, okay, no, I'll skip that for now. So extra registration comes after your graduation. But we also collaborate with the Clinical Engineering Association of South Africa, and I'm a council member of the Clinical Engineering Association of South Africa. You can even become a student member even while you are a student. And when you graduate, you become a full member or an associate. There are lots of benefits to, and they support us as well, especially when we go out on these excursions. They actually hire the buses that take our students out. So they give us a lot of support and help our students with opportunities for work integrated learning, for job opportunities and placement in industry as well. Um, the other thing that happens with the Clinical Engineering Association of South Africa, we usually have what we call the Global Clinical Engineering Day, which is celebrated globally once in a year, usually in October. And here in South Africa, we have a national celebration both in Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town. And during that event, our students attend. Provision is made for them to attend in person. KISA provides the bus to take our students to attend the event, where they can meet and interact with professionals, clinical engineering professionals. Um, so they not only interact, they exchange CVs, they hear about job opportunities, and they get to make contacts for work integrated learning as they mix up and interact with these professionals in the field. So they receive training. Um, um, and the other thing that happens also during that event, there are different prize giving ceremonies that happen, and normally they give a prize to the top clinical engineering students in TUT. So you will get a branded jacket, you get either a tablet, or you get guaranteed placement in a company that trains you during your work integrated learning, and many other prizes that are, and a certificate as well, that our top students do get during these events. There are other categories of awards that are presented. Personally, I've won two of those awards as the Clinical Engineering Professional of the Year 2 years in a row. But now we're talking about the students. Students have the opportunity to also benefit from events that are organized by the Clinical Engineering Association. Now let's talk about funding. What kind of funding opportunities are available for those who are studying clinical engineering here in TUT? Of course, you have the usual NSFAS, which some of you are beneficiaries of. But we do have bursaries provided by Mpumalanga Department of Health, specific for those who are doing clinical engineering. So that you can apply to the Department of Education in Mpumalanga. Then we have the Northwest Department of Health. They come at the beginning of every year in January to request for a list of those who are studying clinical engineering They email us, we provide them with a list based on those who have registered for clinical engineering, and they provide them with bursaries to cover the rest of their studies in TUT right up to the time they graduate and go for their work integrated learning. They finish, and when they finish, they are guaranteed job automatically within the Department of Health in the Northwest. So if you are from the Northwest province, you have the opportunity to benefit from this bursary. They cover books, accommodation, tuition, everything. We also have the Northern Cape Department of Health. In the past 2 years, they've also been involved in providing bursaries for students who are studying clinical engineering in TUT. Now, if you are doing your BTech, you want to do BTech or Advanced Diploma in Clinical Engineering in future, TUT provides bursaries for those who are doing Advanced Diploma and BTech full-time. Well, not BTech anymore, but Advanced Diploma, right? Then for those who will do Masters and PhD, you also get full bursaries provided by TUT to study up to PhD level. And then there are other sources of fundings. Companies do come from time to time, but we have the CETAs, especially Health and Welfare CETA. They do provide funding for those who are doing their work integrated learning in clinical engineering, like those who are in Steve Biko Academic Hospital right now, as we speak. Those who are there, they're getting 10,000 per month. Those who are studying clinical engineering, who are doing their work integrated learning, they are still students, but they get 10,000. We actually got two sources of funding for them, 5,000, 5,000. So they are learning, they're earning money. And then there are other sources of funding, the National Research Foundation and the Department of Higher Education and Training. I will come to your questions once I'm done with the presentation. But I want to let you know that we didn't get to where we are without hard work. And personally, as the cluster group leader for clinical engineering, I have, because of the work we do to promote clinical engineering in TUT and teaching, excellence in teaching and learning, the Faculty of Engineering has awarded me Lecturer of the Year 2 years in a row, 2022, 2023, and then 2023, 2024, Lecturer of the Year in the entire faculty. And then last year, the Clinical Engineering Cluster Group, for the first time when they did this award, we in clinical engineering were awarded the best cluster group of the year within the Department of Electrical Engineering. So you can see it's a lot of hard work we've put in to promote teaching and learning excellence within the department and within the faculty, and all of those is paying off. Like I said, we have collaboration with Mindray, which is a global company in medical devices. We have a collaboration with the Netcare group, and in the framework of that collaboration, they take about 20 of our students annually to do work integrated learning within the Netcare group. I told you guys I was in Sunning Hill Hospital in Santon yesterday to further this collaboration and also to inspect the facility to recommend them as a learning site where our students can go to. I was in another company yesterday, Carl Zeiss in Randburg. They also want to start taking our students for work integrated learning, and they will train them not just for 6 months, not just for 1 year, but for 3 years, after which they absorb them and they become full-time staff. We have a collaboration with Steve Biko Academic Hospital, and we have a dedicated learning site at Steve Biko, and they can take up to 20 students per year and train them when they're doing their work integrated learning. We have a collaboration with the German Ministry of Health. I have a certificate here in my office, certificate of partnership, and they actually helped us to develop our short learning program on medical equipment maintenance. So you can see in clinical engineering, we're actually the best, and we're the only cluster group that have a short learning program, the medical equipment um, maintenance course. And that's what makes us the best within the department in TUT and one of the best within the faculty. So we're where we are not by mistake, not by accident, it's by hard work and dedication and commitment to excellence in all that we do. So I will pause here and yes, we can then begin to take your questions. I already see that there is one question in the chat. I'm going to have a look at that. And if you have any other question, you can just raise your hand or you can share in the chat and then we'll have a look at your question. Someone says, is there a difference between BTech and advanced diploma? Is one favored over the other in the job market? The answer is no. They're all within the same qualification structure. You know, it used to be BTech here in TUT under the old qualification where we had the national diploma. But in the new qualification structure, it's now a diploma, not national diploma, but it's the same level, right? Now, BTech, it used to be BTech when we were doing national diploma. But when they changed from national diploma to diploma, they also changed from BTech to advanced diploma. They are in the same qualification level. So there's no difference between the two in terms of the level where they are. Okay? They are both in the same level, just that the same way your diploma and national diploma are in the same level. So there's no preference of one over the other in the job market because they're all in the same qualification level. I hope that answers the question. Okay, do we have any other question? I don't see any hand, and I don't see any other message in the chat. Okay. How's the general pay? Okay, let me try to answer that. To give you an idea, when you are doing your work integrated learning, again, it depends on where you do it. Public hospitals, when you are doing your 6 months work integrated learning, public hospitals don't pay, but we do try to find funding through the CETAs for our students who are doing their work integrated learning in public hospitals. But private hospitals, they pay. They pay you anything between, well, it depends on which hospital you go to. Netcare, Life Healthcare, Mediclinic, etc. Between 4.5 to 7,000, okay, per month. The companies, they pay more. They pay between 7 to 15,000. Private companies. Between 7, the company I went yesterday, they will pay about 7. Another company I went a few years ago, they pay about 15,000 to our students who are doing work integrated learning. Okay. Now, how much do graduates earn? Well, I can't tell you that because I haven't done any survey to get the figures, but I can tell you they pay well enough for you to get your small car and you get your house and whatever. You really are comfortable, okay, as a clinical engineering technician. So much so that many clinical engineering technicians don't even bother to come and do BTech or advanced diploma because they are satisfied and happy where they are with the pay they are getting. They earn enough, they don't even care about coming to study some more. So what's the point? I'm earning money anyway. Okay, can I we don't have to study 3 years. Well, here you do 2.5 years within TUT from S1 to S5, and you do 6 months in the field, work integrated learning. So 3 years altogether, you get your diploma. Okay. Some companies want to keep you longer to get more experience with them. But staying longer with them is not a requirement for you getting your qualification. You get your qualification after 6 months of work integrated learning, having done 2.5 years here in TUT. So staying on is just to get experience. But after the first 6 months, you complete the requirements for your diploma, you get your diploma. So staying on is just for them to train you and make you their staff and whatever. Can I get guidance on getting to the short course as a first year? Yes, I can share the poster of that short course. Let me see, can I put it in the chat? I'm trying to see if I'm able to add that in the chat. How do I do that now? I'm trying to attach it in the chat so that you can download it. Otherwise, I'll share it with
Yeah, you can share it
Ms.
with me and then
Mohase, and then she
I'll
will
send
share
it
it
to
to
the
you.
students.
You'll send it on WhatsApp. Yeah. Okay. I don't see any other question. Uh, yeah. What's the difference between clinical engineering and biomedical engineering? Um, okay, look at it this way. For my undergraduate, I did biomedical engineering. For master's, I did clinical engineering. Really, there's not much difference between biomedical engineering and clinical engineering because both of them deal with medical devices. In fact, in some places, they call it medical engineering or bioengineering. As long as engineering is in it, they are the same thing. In TUT, you also have clinical technology and biomedical technology. It's not the same as clinical engineering. It's not the same as biomedical engineering. But if it says engineering, so whether it's clinical or biomedical, it's basically the same. In some countries, they call what we do biomedical engineering. But here in TUT, it's called clinical engineering. So they're basically the same thing, depending on where you study and what the focus is. But in South Africa, there's a slight distinction, right, between clinical engineering and biomedical engineering. If you go to Vet University, for instance, they do biomedical engineering. So they are focused more on the research aspects of things, while clinical engineering, like we do it in TT, we focus more on medical technology, on the repair service of medical equipment, medical devices. It's not based more on research like they do in Vet University. Here, our focus is mostly on uh, medical devices, medical equipment, repair, maintenance, management, design, service, installation of medical devices, and healthcare technology management. But there, biomedical engineering, they are mostly into, research and not medical equipment itself. So that could be the small difference, especially as it pertains to how it is here in South Africa. But in other countries in West Africa and so on, I think in Kenya as well, in East Africa, they call it biomedical engineering, but they do exactly what we do in clinical engineering, which is looking after medical devices. Okay, now if you go to the US, you at the undergraduate level, what you do is biomedical engineering. But then at the postgraduate level, there are then different specialty areas of biomedical engineering where you can specialize. And one of them is clinical engineering. And then there's medical instrumentation, there's biomaterials, there's systems physiology. So there are different aspects where you can specialize at the postgraduate level. But at the undergraduate level, everyone does biomedical engineering. Okay, but at the postgraduate level, you can then specialize into a specific field of biomedical engineering, for instance, clinical engineering. That's in America and the US, but in South Africa, it's different, right? If you go to Cape Town and Stellenbosch, they do biomedical engineering only at the postgraduate level, master's and PhD, and it's mostly research. So those are some of the subtle differences. When applying for the short course, will I still have to do 3 years to complete my diploma, or short course is the only thing I will do? No, when you do short course, you only do short course for 5 weeks. And the requirement for that is just your matric. You don't need to have a diploma to do the short course in clinical engineering. No. If you're doing short course, you only do short course. The requirement of that for that is matric. And it is helpful, especially for instance, we have professionals in the field who during that time they didn't go to school much, they only had matric, but then they got a job working in a hospital or in a company working with medical devices. They have a lot of experience practically, but they don't have any paper qualification. So the short learning course provides them with an opportunity to get a paper qualification from TUT as professionals within the clinical engineering field. So they can use that to back up the knowledge or and experience that they have acquired over so many years. Or if you maybe have done, a graduate of electrical engineering in TUT in power or telecoms or whatever, and you're struggling to find a job in that field, The short learning course can help you transition from that field to TUT. But you don't need a diploma to do the short learning course. Matric is the only requirement for the short learning course. Is it funded by NSFAS or will I have to fund myself? No, NSFAS does not fund short learning programs. They only fund regular academic programs like your certificate, your diploma, your BTech, advanced diploma, and all that. They don't fund short learning programs. So you have to fund it yourself or look for some other source of funding that can assist with covering the cost for the short learning course. And the short learning course in medical equipment maintenance is 15,000 rand for that 5-week course. Okay. Do we have any other question? Yeah, I don't see any other question. So I guess then this is where I'll hand over to, oh, sir, for the bursaries, the Northwest, are they offered to all the learners who choose to specialize in clinical engineering? Yes. All the learners who are doing clinical, not based on merit. As long as you're from the Northwest and you are doing clinical engineering, we just submit your name. Once you are registered with us in your second year, because it's in the second year you now choose where you want to specialize. So once we see you are registered for clinical engineering 1 in your S4, then when they come, we just add your name, we send it to them, and they interview you, and they'll ask you to submit the necessary documents, and yeah, you are in. So it's not based on merits. What about the Mpumalanga one? Yeah, the same used to be the case with the Mpumalanga one. We just give you the form, you apply. In the past, it used to be that bursary used to be under the Department of Health in Mpumalanga province. So we had the form. Once students have registered for clinical engineering and they are from Mpumalanga province, we give them the forms, they fill it in, they apply, and then they are taken. But then a few years ago, they moved that bursary from the Department of Health to the Department of Education. Now, since that time, we don't have access to that form anymore because it has moved to a different department. The people we used to know in the Department of Health are no longer the ones handling the bursary. So now you have to go on your own to look for who is responsible in the Department of Education for the bursary from Pumalanga. But they used to come to us before when it was under the Department of Health. But since it moved to Department of Education, it was a bit more challenging now for our students. But the one for Northwest, they come to us every year. And Northern Cape, they also come to us, the past 2 years at least. They come beginning of the year, first semester, to ask who are those doing clinical engineering, and then we provide them with the names, and yeah, they take it from there. Yeah. So unfortunately, we don't have any for Gauteng and for Limpopo at the moment. Yeah, so only students from Pumalanga and Northwest are the, oh, well, yeah, Northern Cape. Yes, if you are from that province, that's where you qualify. If you are not from that province, because the whole idea is they want to build capacity to help them within their province. So after they have trained you, the idea is that you will go back and work for them within the Department of Health. They give you a job. In fact, from your work integrated learning, you are supposed to go back and do your work integrated learning with them in any hospital where they place you within the province. So if you are not from that province, it becomes challenging. Okay? So they are looking for people from their province that they will train, whom after training will go back and be employed by them to work within the departments of health in those provinces. That's why. I want to enroll for the short course, so my problem is funding. 15K. Is there another alternative? Unfortunately, good things cost money, and our course is not just good, it's great. So for now, we don't know of any other source of funding. It has to be self-funded. Because it's a short course, it's not like the formal degree program or diploma program. Short courses usually don't attract. Well, you can try from the seaters. We haven't broken through with the seaters yet, but maybe one day we will. But for now, you have to cough out the funds. Yeah, but once you're in the field, yeah, 15K will be nothing compared to what you will be earning. Yeah, so good things do cost money, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, then I don't see any other questions. So this will be a good point to hand back to Ms. Mokhasi. Back to you, Kia.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Okai, for your time and for an informative session. Hope you guys have learned a lot and you have now stuff to think about, to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you very
I think
much.
this is the end of the session. Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.